The Saga is from 1965 Indo-Pak War. The armies of the two countries were battling it out. The Indian soldiers were fighting hard to gain control over two Pak villages, Dagwai and Burki. Situated on Indian side of a Chajal Canal that was built by Pakistan as a defense line to protect Lahore against any Indian advance. It ran parallel to Indo-Pak border and served as a watery barrier for tanks, armored vehicles, army trucks, etc. Pakistan Army had built pillboxes alongside the banks of the canal. From these protective enclosures, Pak soldiers were firing machine guns and automatic guns, effectively blocking the Indian infantry advance. Pakistan Army was determined to check Indian march to Lahore well before the canal. There was heavy concentration of Pak troops and their big guns alongside the canal. It was August-September of 1965. Pak Army was confident that the Chajal Canal was an impregnable defense line against Indian march. And they had American weapons and Chinese support. In fact, Pak Army officers often boasted that once they crossed the international border, their advance would be so smooth that they would breakfast at Barmer, lunch at Jipur, and then enjoy gala victory dinner in Red Fort of Delhi on the same day. Indian Army Stogra, Jat and Sikh regiments were on the forefront of the battle, pushing back Pak defenders. Patriotism and the supreme sense of duty was firing the Indian soldiers to create new records in bravery, courage, and sacrifices. One of the regiments was being commanded by 27-year-young Major Balwant Singh. Pak Army was stoutly defending Dagwai. They had several infantry battalions fighting to retain the village. Pillboxes were their great advantages, from where they could rain death on advancing Indian infantrymen. The entire area had been turned into a deadly minefield. To make life more difficult, strategic long-range guns were engaged in heavy shelling on Indian side. Pak, saber jets and starfighters were dropping 1,000-pound bombs on Indian Army formations. But all that was not deterring the Indian soldiers from gaining ground and pressing on forward. Every soldier appeared to do his bit. It was the first war Indian Army was engaged in after the independence. So, that war was a very special opportunity for the daring and those who yearned to earn glory. Indian Field Command issued attack orders, and the three regiments pounced the enemy, braving heavy machine gun firing and the enemy shelling. Indian gunners were also trying to neutralize Pak fire. The sky was filling up with red, blue, and yellow flashes of exploding bombs, shells, and flares. To stem the Indian advance, Pak Army brought Patton and Sherman tanks to the fore. They were 11 in numbers. They were rolling and firing menacingly. The Indian tanks had not yet arrived, and the Air Force could not be called for the ground support. At that time, Indian Air Force lacked the ground support role aircraft. It mostly had old-type MiGs and country-made net fighters, fit only for interception roles. The infantry regiments had to tackle the enemy tanks on their own with whatever means they had. Major Balwant Singh yelled to his soldiers to attack the tanks with grenades. The soldiers took out their grenades and began to lob them on Pakistani tanks. Some of them were tossing the grenades after dashing up to the tanks. The attack did considerable damage to the tanks. Although Indians were suffering casualties because the tank crews were dealing out machine gun fire. A tank roared from the left side and rolled towards the Sikh regiment soldiers. Major Balwant Singh called out, "Get the tank!" Several grenades were lobbed at the tank. The machine gun fire claimed many Indian soldiers. One more tank emerged from the left side like a giant shadow of death. A brave Sikh soldier ran at the tank and lobbed his grenade at it. It did little damage. The soldier, Harnam Singh, climbed on the tank turret and threw a couple of grenades down the hatch. He leapt away. The explosions rocked the tank, and black column of smoke rose from its turret hole. Its engine died down. The crew was already dead. Harnum ran to other tank, but a shell exploded near him and he got blown to pieces. It angered the major. He personally launched himself into attack. Following the tactic of Harnum, he destroyed a couple of enemy tanks by throwing grenades down the hatches. The tank crews of the pack tanks panicked at the daredevil acts of Balwant Singh. They raised white flags. The Indian soldiers seized 2 tanks in good condition. 70 pack soldiers, including the battalion commander, surrendered to Indian soldiers. Major Balwant Singh had taken in 5 bullets. He was brought to Jalandhar Army Hospital in unconscious state. He could not be saved. The brave major succumbed to his injuries on the 21st of September, 1965. The story of his valor still survives as a legend. His name will remain written in golden letters in the history of wars and India.